On the last episode, I spoke about finding your peace of mind over the festive season. And while we are still being constantly bombarded with Christmas, I don't want to focus on that completely because I think this season has a lot of other things to it rather than just buying stuff, than just the material things. I think one of the things, the main focus of Christmas is goodwill and kindness to all men and women and children. And so on this week's episode of Matter with Niamh, I would like to talk about kindness. So if you're new to this podcast, hello, I'm Niamh. I'm a women's confidence coach, and I help women find their voice and their confidence through the use of Reiki, journaling, meditations, and of course coaching. And one of the things I find a lot in my work and in the conversations I have every day with women is that we can be incredibly unkind to ourselves. We put everybody else before ourselves, which, a lot of us were brought up to do. It's kind of what society expects of women. And we forget about ourselves and we put ourselves on the bottom of the pile. That can be exhausting. But we think we're being kind. And we're being kind to others by always putting them first. Or are we? Because let's think about this for a moment. If you're the bottom of your list, if you never take time for yourself, the time that you need to rest, recuperate, rejuvenate, the time to do the things that you love and enjoy. Because let's face it, they're the things that rejuvenate you. They're the things that give you the energy to keep going. Yes, we can keep pushing through the stress and the strain, but we feel exhausted and it doesn't feel like fun. It just feels draining and repetitive. And every now and again we might take a long soak of the bath, or we might take an afternoon nap, or an early night, or hit snooze on the alarm clock, and we think that should suffice. We think that that's resting, that it's self-care. But it's not really, because a lot of the time when we do those things, there's guilt attached. There's guilt around taking time out of your schedule when you could be doing things for others, or you could be doing the laundry, or cleaning the house, or doing the online shop, or whatever else it is on your long list of things that you have to do. And you take that time out. It's playing at the back of your mind that maybe you shouldn't be resting, that maybe you should be doing whatever it is on your list to do. And that's not rest. That's not true rest. True rest is when you are actually in that moment, when you are being resting, when you are just not thinking about anybody else, when you are totally absorbed in whatever it is you're doing. So whether that's watching something on TV, whether it's reading a book, whether it's actually meditating or sleeping or doing an exercise class or going for a walk, it's actually allowing yourself to do that without the background chatter of all the things that you should be doing. And quite often we need to give ourselves permission to do that. And that's okay. And sometimes you need to repeatedly give yourself permission to do that, and that's okay, because you deserve that rest. But if we come back to the kindness, how are you being kind to yourself if you're not allowing yourself to take the rest you need, if you're guilt tripping yourself while you take your breaks. That's not kindness. And for me, kindness begins with yourself, with you. Because what you're doing for others may seem kind. And this is something I realized a long time ago, that I might look kind in the eyes of others because I was always doing things for them. I would drop everything and give them a lift somewhere. I would, I don't know, do their laundry for them, find their stuff for them, lend them money when they needed it. And yes, I was kind, but at the back of that kindness, there was stress, there was exhaustion, there was resentment as well. There was a little voice saying, why can't they learn to do this for themselves? Why are they always asking me for money? Why don't they learn to budget? And I realized that actually I wasn't being kind to me, because not only was there resentment there was guilt for feeling that way, and there was guilt every time I took a break or said no. And I realized that actually my kindness wasn't being kind to me, and nor was it being kind to them, because I was pouring from an empty cup. So every time I gave something, it created further strain on me. It created more of that mind chatter, more of the exhaustion I felt, both physical, mental and emotional. Because I hadn't learned to say no. I thought saying no was mean. I thought people wouldn't like me if I said no, that I wouldn't be respected, that I'd be thought of as lazy or selfish. But the truth is, in not saying no, I was being really unkind to me. I was saying every time I said yes to something or somebody that I didn't matter. And you can see here how I got caught up in this cycle of doing things that I was really too exhausted to do and too stressed to do, but I did it anyway. And then I would feel the resentment kick in. Then I would get the guilt about feeling resentful about it. And then I would get all the criticism, the self-criticism about how I was unkind and selfish and lazy to be even thinking about things like this, to be even thinking these thoughts. But when I took a step back and I looked at the reality of all that I was doing, and I looked at the reality of what everybody else around me was doing, and how much my workload seemed in comparison to theirs, when I actually sat and wrote a list of all the things that I did for the family and outside the family, it was massive. And when I compared it to the lists of what they did, there really was no comparison. I had taken on so much that it was no wonder I was exhausted and stressed and resentful. Because so much of what I was doing because I thought people expected it of me. Because that's how I was brought up. Doing everything around the house and as much as I possibly could outside the house. The expectation was there that I would just take it all on. There was also the chatter in my mind that if I couldn't cope, if I couldn't do it, I wasn't strong enough. But I'm human. I have a capacity just like every other human. And I'd reached my capacity. And I reached burnout, a place of such deep depression and anxiety that I didn't know if I would ever come out of it. And I don't want that for any of you. So what I want you to do today is to actually ask yourself how much you're doing from false expectations, from some idea you have that others expected of you. And then I'm going to ask you to go out on a limb here and ask them if they really expected from you. Or if they're just happy for you to be doing it because you've always done it. You see, this was the thing I had. I'd always done it. I'd always just run around picking up the pieces. So of course everybody expected me to do it. They were happy for me to do it because it meant they could kick back and rest or go out or do whatever they wanted because I had it all in hand. Except I didn't really, because I was worn out. I was exhausted. And it was only when I started having those conversations that I realized actually nobody really had these expectations I thought they had, that I would do everything. That actually a lot of the time they would have been quite happy to do their own laundry, their own ironing, putting away their own clothes, doing the dishes, whatever it was, if I'd asked. But I never asked. And because I never asked, they just assumed I was happy doing it. And yes, sometimes my resentment came across in conversations or, in bursts of anger or whatever, that they just they didn't know where it was coming from because I'd never actually spoken about it. I'd never actually told them. So I'd like you to think today about where you're not having those conversations. Where are you taking on the burdens and the expectations from assumptions that you've made, from beliefs that you carried through from other areas of your life or other people. But you've not actually sat down and had the conversations and worked out how to share the load, so that you can get the rest that you need, so that you can recuperate and rejuvenate, so you can feel fulfilled and energized and have time for you, because this is your life too. You are entitled to have fun, you're entitled to enjoy your life, you're entitled to live for your dreams, to accomplish things, to go for your dreams. But you can't do that if you're overburdened with chores and expectations. And unless you have the conversations with those around you and you sort out whose duties those chores should be, or who should be sharing in the load. Because most of us live with a family. We live with others. And so it shouldn't be all on one person to do everything. Whether that's the physical load, the mental load, the emotional load, it needs to be shared. We live in communities. Women are just not there just to serve. We have a right to a life of our own, to live that life. But the only way we can make that a reality is by having, first of all, the conversations with ourselves. So going deep within and working out what it is we really want, what it is that's really causing us our stress, our anxiety, our exhaustion. and then having the conversations with those around us so we can share the loads and lighten our burdens and begin to live the life we really want. Because when you do that, when you are living the life you want, when you're feeling rejuvenated, recuperated, when you're feeling excited and positive about your life, others feed off that. That's the energy you're giving out your life. Then when people ask you to do something, or when something unexpected comes along, it doesn't feel like quite the burden. It doesn't put the same amount of stress on you. It's easier to handle. So that's what I'm leaving you with this week, is the questions for yourself. Is where are you putting burdens and expectations on yourself because of your assumptions or beliefs? And 2, what are the conversations you need to have with those around you? And can you have those conversations? How do you go about having those conversations? And if you're stuck on this, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you to help you with this, because I know this can be an area that we get really stuck on. Because when we've been so long doing things one way, it's really hard to see the possibility of another way. I've been there, I've come through it, and the conversations aren't always easy, but they need to be had. So if the first conversation you have is with me, then that's a brilliant step. Take care, and I will see you on the next episode.